Hello everyone! Welcome to another episode of Reacting Reddit. Today we're doing a story video and we're going to be talking about the most embarrassing moments people have had when someone else had a crush on them. Unreciprocated love. First replies by Red Raconteur. Pretty sure I've told this story here before. In the 7th grade, I was a very awkward child. Kind of chubby, no fashion sense, and my face resembled, well, generally a gorilla. I had already accepted the fact that boys weren't going to like me. One day I was hanging out with a guy friend, Richard. Richard was a sweet kid, and pretty cute, and I'd met him through another friend. It was just Richard and me chilling in a hallway when suddenly he asked me to the school dance that was happening on Friday. I couldn't believe it. A cute guy had just asked me to a dance? Wow. That was happening on Friday. Are you sure this is real life? Say yes, you idiot. Say yes. So of course what I did, as any reasonable 13-year-old girl would, I screamed and ran away. Richard didn't hang out with me again after, and I still feel bad about this to this day, a decade later. Normative Truth says, I managed a cafe that was located about an hour or so something drive from my house. There was this guy who had it really bad for me. He came in a couple of times a day and refused to be served by any of my staff, just me. Anyway, as if that wasn't bad enough, one day during the winter it got very icy. So I decided to not drive home, but stay in a B&B instead, bed and breakfast, safety and shit. Don't ask me how, but he found out and stayed in the same bed and breakfast. I was woken up by him banging on my door. When I open, he stands there fuming about how I don't trust him, or why else would I book a room away from him during the night. Now, who doesn't lock their own door in a bed and breakfast? Also, well, duh. Guess what? He obviously tried the door. What the what? Also, by the time I made it to work the next morning, a 2-minute walk from the bed and breakfast, he had already managed to tell a good portion of the staff and townies that we had spent the night together. The guy actually scared the crap out of me. I regularly passed up on other people working on the same street to not have to walk to the parking lot alone. That's pretty crazy. People can handle their feelings very badly sometimes. I know a couple people, males in particular, who believe that because they feel something, they misinterpret that as desire from the other person. And I want to just say it's their fault, but our society is pretty fucked up, and unfortunately a lot of female behavior kind of enables men like that to thrive. I don't like it, but I'd be lying to tell you that doesn't happen. There are, believe it or not, women who promote misogyny in the way that what they accept and allow from their partners. Sad, sad days. Next reply is by Sunshine Earth. Yeah, Sunshine Earth. I also had a borderline stalker from the cafe I worked at. He would only come in on days that I work, would only be served by me, and would tip very generously, so at first, I didn't care at all. He would always bring me little gifts that I didn't want to take. Then he started telling me I need to leave my boyfriend for him because he would marry me and I'll never have to work again. Then he would bring his pay stubs so that I could see how much money he makes. Then he brought his mom and sister and introduced me as his future wife. The worst part was when he showed up at my other job with flowers and VIP tickets to a concert he knew I wanted to go to but couldn't afford. I was in the back and he introduced himself to my manager as my boyfriend. When I came out and saw him, I freaked out. He handed me everything with a card. Inside there was a gift card to buy myself a sexy dress, tickets for the show, and a card that said a limo will be at my house at 8 p.m. to pick me up. How the hell did he know where I live? Obviously, I didn't go. And to tell him that I created a fake email account and politely declined and explained it will never happen. And he needs to let go because I'm very uncomfortable. That's when it got weird. Creepy emails a few times a day. He would show up at my work, go to my tables, and tell the customers he's gonna marry me. That went on for about 2 weeks. I was terrified. Until one day the kitchen staff and bussers got really worried about me and kicked him out when he came in. They told him if they ever see or even hear about him again, he will be arrested. He tried to email me a few more times, but after I told him I've contacted the police to get a restraining order, he stopped, and I never heard from him again. Thank God. Too long didn't read, had a customer at a borderline cafe stalk me. Yeah, she actually said borderline stalker. I guess what? That guy didn't count as a stalker to her. Asher Wiener says, during camp, once I overheard of a girl who was into me. I wasn't that much of a fan of her, so I didn't follow it up the day after. I come past this girl and I notice part of my name written on her hand. I asked her what the deal was. She lifted up her sleeve and my name was written all over her body. I was so freaked out. I didn't know how to react. I just ran away. I bump into her here and there nowadays, and it's still extremely awkward. Whew. Dedicated Reject says, in high school, this guy who liked me used to leave love notes in my locker. They always had really disturbing pictures or poems in them. Not knowing that it was a friend, I used to bring them into the morning table to be like, who is leaving these in my locker? I feel bad about it now because it seems everybody knew that it was him. Ouch, but me. Ooh, I have a story to interject. Narrator speaking. I went to a different school. I got transferred into it. Well, I went to a different high school for a brief period of time. And during that period, I was the new kid again for like the 100th time in my life. And there was this girl who I referred to as hentai chick. Because I didn't know her, but she knew my schedule, or at least when I was in one of my classes. And when I would get out, she would be there waiting and was very, very talkative. And I was not a very talkative person, so I was pretty friendly, but I don't like it when people are really talkative to me and I haven't expressed any interest in talking. I don't like that shit at all. But she was quite persistent and frequently tried to get me to look at her drawings of hentai. And I don't know why. Like she introduced herself. She was like, "Hi, I like you. Do you want to look at my hentai?" And I was like, "Well, oh shit." It was embarrassing for sure. Demonic Toaster says, "Yep, this sort of sounds like me, only minus the disturbing pictures. It was a small high school and as socially fucked up as I was in 9th grade, obviously the clear choice for a romantic pursuit was a senior who was successful and popular in every way possible. Yeah! Clearly, logic went into the planning and deployment of trying to gain her attention, which failed miserably, by the way. In one instance, I think she mistook me for one of her friends, because I initiated it. She didn't realize that were the initials of her male friends. It was 1998, and I thought it was a good idea." Dedicated Reject says, "It may have worked if the letters he sent me weren't about how I was breaking his heart because I didn't love him. He never expressed any interest in me in person, so I had no clue I was breaking any hearts." Zeronix says, "Freshman year in high school, I had a similar thing happen to me. While I was heading back to class from break, I had a senior that I knew through random encounters come up and say, 'Hey, you're my boyfriend.'" What? Well, being probably the most introverted or shy person in my school, I honestly thought it was a gag at first, and I went ahead with it, grabbed her hand, and said sure. Long story short, it wasn't a gag. And we did the usual high school romance thing. It ended well because I was a freshman and had no vehicle, so the only time we saw each other was at school. But we were still friends up until she graduated. Met her again last year where she works. Still the same crazy chick too. Not in a bad way, just very outgoing. After that, I guess I expected more relationships to be just as blunt and simple. The number of women that I have been friend-zoned by is atrocious and tells me differently. Gray Ink says, "When I was in 4th grade, I remember having the biggest crush on a girl in my PE class. Having thought things through, I decided that I needed her to know my undying love for her. So I wrote her a note and delivered to her in PE. So finally, when we're all sitting in our grid formation on the gym floor, I decide the time has come. I get up and start walking to the fountain. She is in between, and I planned on just dropping her a note on the route. However, in the 5 seconds between me getting up and when I am to drop the note off, I decide that this is too easy. I must give her a challenge. I then proceed to the water fountain with a new plan. As soon as I get there, I plunge the note into the water, creating a wet, squishy mess that resembles a white piece of shit. My logic at this point in my life was that the wet paper would create a situation in which she would have to spend some time decoding the note. By making the note harder to read, she would undoubtedly be impressed. On the way back to my seat, I dropped the white piece of shit off with her. As you can probably guess, she didn't know what in God's name it was. She just stared at it on the gym floor for a second with her mouth open. Before she could say anything, I hightailed it back to my seat. She not once ever spoke to me again. I think it's safe to assume that she did not decode the message. Tea break, 1 second. I need a sip. All right. Trouble says it's about me, not someone who had a crush on me. But here goes. I once sent a girl an email. I guess she's acting like she is the person who did this to her. I once sent a girl an email in reply to a mass email from a university course we were taking together, professing my interest in her. I clicked reply, not reply all, so I thought I was safe. I didn't know how list serves work. Oops. Mary Tyler Roar says, my work. Oh, we're getting our minds blown. Jack Black's getting his minds blown. This meme's like 4 seconds longer than all the other memes. My work started using a program that began hiring ex-cons. One of the guys hired through this program started showing interest in me. I wasn't attracted to him at all, and I made it clear to him repeatedly. Long story short, he got fired 3 months later, but kept coming around the store to visit his friends. I go out to my car to read during lunch like normal, and there's a creepy metal and mesh flower on my windshield. I look around the parking lot, and guess who? To see who could have left it, and I don't see anyone. I threw it into a grassy area, and I forget about it. I read through my lunch hour and go inside, and no sooner than I clock in, I hear a page that I have a phone call. It's him. All he says is, "You look so pretty when you're reading." I hung up immediately and told the manager. He kept doing more things that escalated the creepiness. I ended up getting a emergency restraining order against him when I found out he added me as an emergency contact with his parole officer. I didn't even know him. Mary Tyler Roar says, if you saw the flower, you wouldn't think, oh, cute. You would think, oh, jeebus, a serial killer just got crafty with a victim. It was made with some sort of mess fabric that looked like he ripped it in his own teeth. He used twisty ties from garbage bags, I think to hold the mesh petals to the stem, that he had jaggedly, looked like ripped, cut either a soda can or a beer can to make a spiral stem thing. And before you think, oh, he's crafty or artsy, just, no. It was creepy. Yeah, what matters is that this individual felt that it was creepy. Although the way that she's describing it does make it sound like, he was, in that particular case, he just made something for her, That's not too crazy. Other parts of the story are crazy. Eric22VHS says, I really hope every guy who considers himself in the friend zone reads this and realizes how awkward, I would argue dishonest, to pretend to have a decent platonic relationship for so long while harboring a crush. This is. I've done a lot of cringy things with girls that I liked in the past, but I am really glad that I never done the whole profess your love after supposedly being friends for years thing. Forgare says a similar thing happened in high school. Friend or acquaintance since elementary. We both learned sign language through separate means and occasionally hung out with deaf students at school. However, we had maybe 2 classes together since high school started. We definitely weren't even close friends. Since a bunch of us were graduating together, the deaf students requested to have us do the national anthem during graduation, which led to her and I spending a little bit time together to practice. It was like 15 minutes for 3 days prior to graduation. It wasn't like we talked for hours or anything. Finally, graduation day comes along, we meet up with the ASL club, do one last round of practice, and then we all walk out. She held me back for a minute, I'm assuming for a good luck pep talk. She turns around and confesses her love to me. She's had a crush on me since middle school. She learned sign language when she found out I liked it. She learned Spanish and had studied abroad a semester so our kids would be bilingual. I'm a native Spanish speaker. She wanted to know if I had noticed how compatible we were and why I hadn't returned her feelings these last few days when we were so close together. My response was, thanks, sorry, we're gonna be late, and walked out. We never talked since. I think she went out of the state for uni. Well, that one doesn't sound too crazy. That just sounds like a normal kind of other friend having an attraction to one of their friends, and they tried and it didn't work out. Like, that's pretty normal, isn't it? Is it not?
Next reply is by Ashley Banks. Hit single.
I have one that makes it seem like some guys really never grow out of that awkward high school crush phase. A couple of years ago, I worked the counter at a Chinese restaurant. It was a fairly busy place right beside my house, and I would work for a few hours almost every week, every day after school to get them through the rush. As a result, I had a lot of regulars who recognized, and I behaved in a very friendly, familiar way with many customers. One guy would come in around 9 p.m. every couple weeks and was very quiet. I would give him his food and he would stammer out with a thank you and make terrified, jutting all over the place eye contact during our interaction. This was no problem. He seemed like a normal middle-aged man. One night he picked up his takeout bag and somehow managed to get his finger snagged under a ring and cut himself. He started bleeding pretty profusely, and I grabbed some napkins, trying to help him, but he kept playing it off and just booked it out of there. The next day I get to work and a bunch of my customers are telling me they heard about me on the radio. Apparently, this guy was a very popular morning radio DJ, and he had been talking about a girl he gets takeout from, who he is completely in love with, for months. He would mock all of his awkward interactions with me and profess his love and how beautiful he thought I was. And I guess that in telling the most intimate recent staple story, he revealed that I worked at a Chinese takeout place, and a ton of my customers and coworkers put it together. Everyone was recounting all of those cringy, humiliating things that the guy had done while picking up food from me that I'd barely noticed or remembered. It was so weird. I felt like a tabloid celebrity. He kept coming in, and I never told him that I knew he made a habit of mentioning me on the air, but I did try really hard to make sure our interactions went smoothly and bolster his social confidence a lot. Oh, that's sweet. That sounded like a pretty genuine person. Well, I'm saying the other person seemed pretty normal, but the one who was getting hit on didn't attack the other person. That seemed like a pretty normal situation.
Let's see. Next reply is by
Crustacean. Not sure if just crush or just crazy, but anyway. So I met this girl at a bar. A nice girl, cute, blonde, typical college type. I exchanged numbers with her thinking we could hang out again. Fast forward to a few days later when we were just texting back and forth setting up a date. Her, how's tonight sound for you? I can't. I'm meeting my friend for drinks because she's leaving town. Her, wait, you didn't tell me you were seeing other girls. I thought we had something going on. I'm sorry, I can't do this. Please stop texting me. I just told her I'm seeing a good friend whom I've known for years, and she refuses to listen. So I thought, great, I dodged a real crazy bullet train right here. Then she texted me saying she wants to meet again, and I said no, because she was being a little crazy and making me feel uncomfortable. Here are some of the best creepy texts that she has sent. Next. No, I won't stop texting you until you explain to me why you won't come out and see me. I already told her that she was being overreactive and making me uncomfortable, and I lost interest. Do us a favor and stop being an asshole. Why can't you put the past behind and give us a second chance? Forgiveness is a virtue. Just pretend like that never happened, and we can be happy together. I'll give you a day to get over it. We don't have to meet immediately. We can text and see how we feel. I'm in no rush. You need to learn how Americans work. You're obviously just being rude like all other Asians. I'm so glad iOS 7 has built-in block feature now. I'm still keeping the text in case something happens to me in the future. Jeez, brutal. All right, everybody, one last story. My time to shine. So I had a problem in high school, and that problem was that I would attract really creepy boys. Like ones who would publicly declare their love for me and follow me around boys. Not good. But the one that tops the cake was this guy, Tony. I had known him for a while, but he had never really talked until one day he started messaging me about his problems on Facebook. I was like, this is kind of weird, but maybe he's just lonely? We would become better friends, and one night we were talking and he tells me that he's really into me and would like to kiss me. At this point, I had a boyfriend that I was crazy about, so I told him it was nice. It was nice, but I had a boyfriend. Bam! 2 days later, my boyfriend broke up with me. Tony calls me to confront me that night, being all nice and telling me how beautiful I am and how much he cares about me. The next day, he walks me to and from every class, wants to hang out after school, and texts me all day. Now, I'm not interested in dating him at all, and having just broken up with my boyfriend, I tell him that I appreciate everything he's done for me, but I am not interested in dating him or anyone for a while. Yes, you are. You owe me. Excuse me? There is no way you would put up all my shit if you weren't interested, and besides... oh my god. Besides, I was there for you when your boyfriend broke up with you. Turns out, Tony had a history of being emotionally abusive to former girlfriends, and he was extremely manipulative. This was the beginning of threats of suicide if I didn't date him, followed me around school, and drunk texts and calls in the middle of the night. Jeez. It finally ended when he told me to be his girlfriend or he would move away and wreck his life. I told him good luck, and he did. Last I heard, he was in jail for having sex with a minor. Jeez. Brutal. Alright everybody, if you like this kind of content, please do one of the following. Like this video, watch another video, subscribe to this channel, or comment below. And if you really like us, reach out to us, send us an email so we can set up a Zoom call with you because we want to talk with more content creators on YouTube. If you want to make these kind of videos where you browse content and respond to people's opinions and comments and trending stuff, then reach out to us, guys. We also make thumbnails and crap. Yeah. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Ciao.